see, in this world, there's two kinds of people, my friend. Those with loaded guns, and those who dig.
Here we are. It's the crossroads. I wouldn't say it's the final crossroads. If somehow the Dolphins have a close game and they lose it and they win the next, till the end, it's not, but that gets more difficult. Clearly, this is a huge game. And I'm hearing it's Tua's biggest game of his career. I think it might be. But I don't think that's a great evaluation because, again, the quarterback is getting put to the forefront. And while he is the warhead at the top of the missile, all the components behind it is what's driving that explosive device to where it's got to go. And that's why I'm saying I don't hear Chris Grier's name being brought up.
The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist.
And if you listen to the way the Packers fans are talking about their team, and I'm going to get into that and the matchups, to me, this game is a huge game for Tua, but his career will continue even if he flops. But Chris Grier, if he flops in Miami, his career is over. And this game is more about the build, the design, the structure that has been put in place to drive the Dolphins to this moment. And it's going to be a contrasting style between two teams. And I'm going to get into that. So we've got to keep the evaluations right. If the surrounding units, the offensive line, the receivers, and the defense, they do an adequate job, then it's on Tua, and he'll have the highest grade. But if we see a team that's trying to throw the football a ton, and whether that's not terrible, about 20, 14-mile-an-hour winds, some flurries, but it's non-conducive. It's not the best environment to throw the football. So if we see that the design of fun ball, throwing the football, the offensive line breaks down, and on the other side, you got Love, who's drafted the same year as Tua, and they're able to run the football, protect the quarterback, and slow down this machine in not good weather and not good conditions. It's got to fall on Chris Grier first, especially as if you're not big on Tua. He drafted Tua as well. So we've got to keep that in our mind. And I want to put this little graphic here. Packers boast the third-ranked run offense, and quarterbacks have been sacked just 15 times, second fewest in the NFL this season. The silent partner in Green Bay's offensive success has been its homegrown offensive line. They've been battling. And if you look at their offensive line, I know everybody who watches me, you know that I love Zach Tom. I want us to draft him. I made a whole podcast at it.
I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
He was brought into our building. We went with Easy and Tyndall, but you know what happens. But look, they got Walker, they got Jenkins, Myers, and Rehan. All these guys they've put together, and they're not all first-round picks. And it's driving this team. And all the top teams, they are being driven by their offensive line. I see people saying the offensive line, Curtis, you talk too much about it. This guy says they're awesome. That guy says they're awesome. If we say this is all about Tua, then all these other evaluations will mysteriously disappear from the vast majority. We can't let that happen. It's got to be a fair evaluation. So if you look at our injuries and their injuries, clearly there is some very interesting stuff there. You're going to see how this team responds with backups in very critical positions. And then for us, something similar as well. So injuries, Jair Alexander, one of the best corners in the league. He's not going to be playing. Huge advantage for us. And this moves the pass game advantage to us. So we should have that success if we're built right and if Tua is the right guy. McDuffie, the linebacker, he's not going to be out. Cooper, he's not going to be in. Cooper might be out as well. Dobbs, their third, he's pretty good. He's going to be out. So that's a lot of guys. Now, for us, Tehran has a practice all week. He's going to play, but how long will be able to play? Is that knee compromised? I saw some things in the film that I thought his knee was kind of getting shaky, but that's just my take. Fuller's going to be out. Walker's going to be out. And so Dotson is going to play a huge role. I don't like Grier, but I think getting Dotson is a masterstroke. It was a great, great move. Moving off Long. I mean, I'd like to have moved off Tyndall and kept Long. That's what I would have done. But I guess you want to save some money. So he did a good job with Dotson, and we'll see how that plays out. Now, Fuller's going to be out, so Duck, Cam Smith, a second-round pick. Love is going to attack that secondary. They've got some pretty good receiving group. They've got some good tight ends. I'll get into that in a second. So they got Watson and Reed, the receivers, with Dobbs would make it ferocious. And then another guy I talked about drafting, tight end Kraft. We didn't go from. He's having a very good season, almost a breakout season. And they got Sims. So the linebacking group, with Dotson taking over for Walker, who's taking over for Long. And then the cornerback situation with Fuller being out and Cam Smith and Duck taking over, they're going to be able to come at us with the two wide receiver sets. And they're also going to be able to come at us with the two tight end sets. And that's going to put weight on the linebacking group to cover and stop the run. And then it's going to put weight on those cornerbacks to fill in because Love has been, as I said earlier, highly protected. And so what we've seen through the season, we had huge pass rush mitigation, lots of screens, lots of play actions. That means you're pulling receivers out. You're getting 2 or 3 wide receivers, and defenses are just playing rush 4 and drop 7. And Tua didn't have much success. But when he came back, things kind of started changing a little bit. The talk has been that we can beat the cover 2. Well, if you look at the matchups, it says, well, maybe some of it's the matchups. Some of it's the combinations of the defenses we saw and the offenses. I'm not saying it is, but you've got to keep that in your mind. This is a different team in a different environment. And it's not to say cover 2 doesn't work, but the teams that try to employ it really struggle and allowed a lot of points. This team's a little bit different, even with these injuries. So for them, they got Quay Walker, who's going to be filling in for McDuffie and maybe Cooper. He's been playing well. He's had some pretty good action. Last week was really good, but backup quarterback was San Fran. McKinney and Williams might be the 2 best safeties in the league. So their cover 2 is going to be different than some of these other teams. I mean, we played the Bills. They don't have really great safeties. These 2 are. And while the cornerbacks are damaged, or maybe not so much the best, that cover 2 with those 2 safeties is really going to be a tough nut to crack. And now that they don't got the best front, but they got Rashawn Gary, who's very good, and Eric Wilson, the linebacker who can blitz. So they're about 14th. They're middle of the road of just about everything. So this offensive line, if it's as good as people are saying, there should be time for Tua, there should be protection, and there should be a run game inside and out. And so this is going to be the huge yin and yang. And again, remember Marino and Kelly. Marino was a better quarterback than Kelly, but why did Marino lose? They had a run game. They had Thurman Thomas, a good offensive line, good defense, and Marino just had pieces. And so you've got to keep that. Their game is going to be based on an offensive line, a tight end, and the run game. And then the rest of the stuff's going to build around it. Pass balance, thing that I've talked about. But you're going into cold weather where it's going to be loud. All the motions and all the stuff is going to be more difficult. Straightforward, smashing people in the face is going to be the easiest way. So this whole build is not the best for that. But they built so they could be good for that and then good for the other stuff. They can pass and throw. They could be finesse and smash you in the face. And so if we are built right, we will compete. Maybe not win, compete. But we've got to look at Tua. We've got to look at this build, and we've got to wait to see. If we win, it's huge.
Good morning, Vietnam!
Huge. But if we're blown out and it's not, it looks like KC last year, then yeah, let's talk about Tua. But you've got to start with Chris Grier. Again, though, we win, and you've got to tip your hat to him.
We're not worthy! We're not worthy! We're not worthy! We're scum! We're scum!
And so the quarterback is uplifted by the protection, by the run game, by the receivers, by the caller. It's a total package, and that's how we have to evaluate this. I do think there's a chance for us to win. This is not a good environment, but with the injuries they have, it offers some opportunity. With the desperation that we have, it offers some opportunity. But Tua will not, he can lose the game if he throws some picks, but there's no way that he's going into this environment and throwing us to victory with an offensive line that's not, is at least not, it's got to be average. With a run game, without a run game, we can't have the run games we've seen. We need, 110 solid runs, early downs, inside and out, and then facilitate that football. And if that happens and Tua chokes and he has a drop, then you can start going to him. But even still, you still got to start with Grier and then work your way down. He's the designer of this whole thing. What you're seeing here in Green Bay is going to be the same you're going to see if you got to go to Buffalo or KC or Baltimore or Jets or New England if they're ever good, or whoever, Steelers. This kind of environment is the major evaluation. We can't expect to have home field advantage throughout. And the goal is Super Bowl. It's not a playoff appearance. And so that's what I'm saying. I think we have a shot. I think they if you look, they've played some teams we've played and it's been in that range. Sometimes it's been away for them. It hasn't been weather like this. We haven't played in weather like this year. So it could get ugly. But there's a chance. But there's no way, no how that we get blown out and the first guy on the list is not Chris Grier. And then follow suit after that. So that's my take. Enjoy Thanksgiving, guys. I appreciate everything. Big game. We got to evaluate fairly. If you don't like Tua, just evaluate him fairly. You don't like Grier, evaluate him fairly. Evaluate everything fairly. It's got to be that way. I hope we win, even though I can't stand Grier. It'd be an amazing moment if we do it. But if we don't, there is a whole host of people out there are going to put the wrong guy up to get sacrificed. It's what we kind of do in the past. And we never seem to get to the top. We trim back the sickness and it never gets to the root. So let's hope we don't have to do that. Let's hope it's beautiful roses and flowers and all the Hopium people can say, I told you so. Rosebud. There's a chance. It's not going to be easy. So that's it. Curtis saying, be well, go Fins. Curtis out. Your own online sports book today by getting signed up with aceperhead.com service that'll allow you to book action on sports from all around the world.